Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is our first day on the job site. There was a shed that sat right here on this existing slab. The shed's already been removed. Now we just have to remove that concrete, and we're going to make a bigger shed in this location. It's actually a garage, because the garage is going to be 16 feet by 25. And it's a prefabricated metal building that's going to go on here. And what I'm going to do is the foundation for it. And I'll show you a little bit of the plans as well as we go through this. We're kind of on a little bit of a hillside, pretty good slope. In 25 feet we have over a foot of slope. So we've got a lot of dirt moving to do to make a level pad here. And then of course the footings, they need to be 1 foot below native, undisturbed soil. So even though we're going to make a level slab, we still have to have that footing down into the native. So instead of just a 1 by 1 footing, 1 foot by 1 foot, we're really going to end up with a 2 by 2. The plans call for a 1 foot below native, 2 foot wide. But since we're on a hillside here, it's actually going to be 2 by 2. We'll still only be 1 foot into the native though. So a lot of the dirt that I'm taking out right now, I'm just building up the pad level. I brought the pad level up about 6 inches on the low end. And at the top side, we just leave that where it was. So most of the buildup is going on this far end towards us. And then as we build up, we're just going to wheel roll it, and we're going to put a lot of water on it, plus we're going to compact as well. So we've got the dirt. What I did with the dirt is I used the laser level as I was grading, getting this pad height correct. I was just shooting the dirt, and we just kept moving the dirt around until we had a level pad. We're still pretty low actually, below top of concrete, because at the top end we want to be 6 inches above the existing gravel driveway there. In that one corner, that left corner, at that steel stake, that's going to be 6 inch raised at that point. And then of course we're sloping off in 2 directions. We're sloping 1 foot towards us on the native soil, and we're also sloping about 6 inches to the right at the same time. So if we're 6 inches high on the high side of the dirt near the driveway, at the other end we're about a foot and a half. Now you can see these lines are all level right now. And what we did is we squared it up. These string lines, what we did is we got our dimensions, which was 16 by 25, and then we started we did a 6, 8, 10 in one of the corners, and then we also measured diagonally all the way across just to verify that we were square, and we're within about a 1/4 inch. So I said, let's just go with that. So that's some of the dirt that I removed from the footings, and I'm just kind of putting it back in, adding some water. Also, I have some sand, clean wash sand, that we're going to be using. And we'll use that over the vapor barrier that we'll be installing here. It's 6 mil plastic basically. So we've got some 2 by 12, some 2 by 10s, a little bit of everything going on here. Just what we had laying around the yard. And then we can underpin. So that's a 2 by 12 there, and you can see it's been used before, so because it's pre-oiled. So that's always nice. Threw a 2 by 6 underneath that because the height, we don't want the concrete to run on out of the formwork. Here's a little plate compactor going in. I'm just kind of dragging it over the sides of this raised area. Now we're just trimming up this footing a little bit more. Have to widen it because we want the width and we want the height. So we're cutting it down a little bit with the electric clay spade. We're using 8 duplex nails from the stakes to the 2x12s and 2x6s. We're using a 16 duplex on the corners. The type of metal building that's going on here, it has a couple different options as far as fastening it to the actual concrete foundation. The particular option we're using here is we went ahead and bought the optional plate that goes on the bottom, and it kind of acts as a metal flashing that wraps around the outside edge of the foundation. It drops down a couple inches, so it rolls over the top of the foundation, and the actual fasteners will go through that, and they're expansion bolts basically. So you just drill a 5/8 hole, put an expansion bolt through that metal plate and tighten it up, and then all your walls fit into that. The other option on this particular building, if you didn't want to buy that bottom piece mounting bracket, is you put a keyway all the way around the perimeter, like a 3.5 by 3.5 inch keyway that the actual walls will sit down in. You lose a little height on your building, because you're dropping into that keyway about 3 inches. And what that does, because this is kind of like a Quonset hut, it's got that round type of look to it. So the pressure is pushing down and out. So when you drop it into that keyway, it can't push out, and then you go ahead and fill that with concrete once the building's completely built. And that's what locks it in. That's one way to hold the building down. But in this case, it's going to be more of a mobile unit, so we're going the other system. Some of these 2x4s that you see going in there for underpinning, that was actually from the old shed that was removed. We just utilized some of the old lumber. Great for underpinning. You notice how we already have the plastic and the road base in before we dug the final footing. And the reason you do that is just so that you can drive the tractor in and out without having to try to jump a footing. So you save that last footing, that's your access. So we got road base. We got about a lift of about 4 to 6 inches of the road base on top of the 6mm plastic. Then once we compact that, then we're going to put about 1 inch layer of the washed sand, and then we've got all the rebar going in. The rebar consists of 1/2 inch rebar, steel. It's going to be on 18-inch centers in both directions. It's going to have 1 bar horizontal all the way around the perimeter, 3.5 inches off the bottom, and then the whole top grid, 18 inch on center, will have a turn down all the way around that locks into that bottom bar. And because of the size of this, like I said, we're 16 feet across, it's one continuous bar with 90-degree bends on either end. Captures the whole thing. In the other direction, we're going to have 2 bars. And it's like 1.5 because it's 25 feet long. The actual building specs itself, it calls for a 4-inch slab, but we're actually going to be doing an 8-inch deep slab. And it calls for 2,500, but we're going to be going 4,500 psi. The reason we're doing all of that is because it's going to have a car lift in here. So it's going to be plenty strong enough for that. You can drill anywhere on this slab to mount the car lift, and it'll be fine. Here's the bender cutter tool that we'll be using. Right now I'm just cutting the length, and then I'm going to put a turn down on each side, which will wrap around on both ends of the footing. You'll see that installed as it goes in. Now here's the rebar going in, and I've kind of put the end in first. That way it kind of holds up all the other bars, and then I put one in the middle to support some of the bars that are going across, so everything wouldn't sag all at one time. We've got some plastic chairs here that we're going to be utilizing. So you can see the two number 4s at the bottom. The one bar is actually tied in to the turn downs of the slab rebar. And then the other one's just kind of free hanging there. It's going to be sitting on some dobies. Here's the Makita rebar tire. Came in real handy on this job. A lot of tying at 18" on centers. So this is ready to pour now. We've got everything dobied up, all the rebar in 18" or less centers. All we have to do now is oil the forms and place the concrete. Here's the oil going in. And this is 100% Mobil 1 synthetic, right out of my truck. By oiling this lumber, it's going to last me twice as long as it would if you didn't oil it. Plus, when it strips away from the slab, it's not going to take chunks off of the concrete with it, so you have a nice clean face at the same time. We got a couple dozen eggs out of the deal here too, which is kind of nice. We got some brown eggs, some green eggs, a nice variety. You know, here's the initial concrete coming out, and there's a little bit of primer, you know, from priming the hose, so it's a little wet at this point, and it's going to stiffen up real quick. So I've got my screed board in the middle there, and what I did with that, this is a level slab, but what I like to do on foundations is just crown it a little bit in the middle. So I picked it up about 3/8 of an inch in the middle. And you'll see at the end when we wash this down, which is kind of unusual not to see any puddling on a level foundation. And there's no puddling on this one, and that's just because we picked it up 3/8 in the middle. That made all the difference. So that's one load right there. That was 10 yards, and it pretty much all went into the footings. Now we've still got the 8" slab, and that's going to be another load. So we did 20 yards of concrete in this 25 by 16 area, 4,500 psi. Also, I threw in some fiber mesh in here as well. When the truck arrives, I like to climb up the truck, drop the fiber in. It also gives me an opportunity to look at the slump before any comes down the chute. So it's kind of beneficial in both ways. Drop the fiber, check the slump. This is a 4-foot wide wood bowl float. So he's running this perpendicular to the way we were rodding the concrete, which is optimal to get the slab level. After the wood, we'll take the 4-foot magnesium and then we'll go another direction with that. Typically you don't really see anyone edging foundations, but we're going to go ahead and edge this one because, like I was saying about the mounting plate for the walls, how it rolls over, kind of like flashing would work. It'll just roll over a little nicer, I think, with the radius, so we'll just edge it all. Plus you're going to need an edge on your entrance anyway, so you're going to have one side edged, regardless. Also, when you go to strip with an edge on there, it comes away cleaner at the top. Now this is your 4-foot magnesium bull float with a rocker arm on it. And there's the walking edger, 10 inches wide, 1/2 inch radius. Now what we have here is a funny float. And this is a fiberglass funny float, and it's got a couple modifications on it. It's not your standard issue. You can see all those lines it's leaving. That's because we took the grinder and grinded a bunch of notches in the bottom just to bring up the cream a little bit better. So once we do it with that, then we follow that up with the funny trowel. There's your standard funny float there. Notice that one. The other one getting run, it's more of a square, and it doesn't have the notches on the bottom. That's big blue with a rocker arm. Basically an oversized Fresno. Now all these vertical steel stakes around the perimeter are lodged in concrete, so we got to get those out today. All right, we're doing a hard trowel finish on this little garage pad, and I just wanted to go over some of the real important things about finishing concrete. And the most important thing, and really the only thing you'll ever need to know about concrete, is that it gets really hard, and the harder it gets, the more you got to work it. So the more you sweat is a benefit. See how I splattered that with some sweat right there? Now you can trowel it much easier. There it is. That's top secret stuff right there. Well, that was a good lesson. How to get concrete smooth the easy way. So there's your final product. Turned out real nice. We were considering putting a saw cut in this, but we went ahead and decided against it because this thing is so thick. It's got so much steel. We're not too concerned about cracking. Even if it does crack, it's not going to go anywhere. Also, he's going to be putting an epoxy coating on this in the near future. Here's the very next day we came out here. We left the kickers on. That kind of holds the board up against the concrete. And now after we pull the kickers, the boards just fall right off because of that Mobile One synthetic. And you can see how clean it is on this face. There's nothing sticking to that lumber. That's what you want, because now it's ready to go into the next job. There's those 2x4s from the old shed build that we salvaged for underpinning. They're locked in there and they're not coming out. I mean, they could, but there's really no point. It's below grade, at least a foot, so we'll just go ahead and bury it. You notice how there's no puddles on this? That's very rare on any foundation because foundations are typically level. But the key to this is that little 3/8 crown on your screeds right down the middle. The homeowner kept this wet. They were wetting it for an entire week, every hour on the hour. They actually rigged up a sprinkler system on a timer, and they just let it run off and on. You just hit it, get it wet, shut it down, wait an hour, and you just keep it moist basically for the first week, and then you get a lot harder concrete. If you were to test it, the PSI goes way up when you can slow cure concrete. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it and have a good day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.